So I remember the first time it happened to me. The first time I learned about a word that was not translatable into English. I was in business school and I was with my friend Eugen, and we were working on an economics problem set. And Eugen was sitting there and she had erased something on her economics problem set. And she says to me, "Rob, what's that word for the little bits of pink that come off the eraser?" And I said, Eugen, I don't know, I don't, maybe eraser shavings? I don't think we have a word for that in English. And she said, hmm, that's interesting. We have a word for that in Korean. And it got me thinking about words that are not translatable into English. And I started looking at these things. And I thought that most of these words would be things that aren't useful in English, like the Finnish word poronkusuma, which is the traveling of a reindeer, the distance a reindeer travels before it needs to take a break. Or there's an Australian word, an indigenous Australia word called murma, and it's the walking through water using only your feet to search for things. And these are really exceptional words. These are words that don't really work in English or in the United States. And I thought there'd be a lot of words like this. But it tends to be the exception more than the rule. Most words that we hear about that are kind of specific, like we hear the story of Eskimos having 1,000 words for snow, but that's mostly fictional. Most words are really common across the world, or most concepts are common around the world, and people just have different words to interpret them. But that's not to say that different cultures and environments create different words. For instance, in Iceland, there's the word glúkaviður. And glúkaviður is when you're sitting at home in the middle of the winter and it looks really nice outside, like really nice, like you just really want to go outside. And then you learn that like you really should not go outside because it's very cold. And that's glúkaviður. Or in Italy, if you're having a really big meal and after the meal you just kind of you're tired and you want to take a nap, that's abioka. And learning about these words from around the world, once oh, there's the concept, but once you have a word around it, it has a sort of visceral kind of substantiality in the world. It now exists in a way that it didn't exist before. And so, for instance, you've probably had this experience, I certainly have, where you invite a bunch of friends over to do a big favor, like reorganize stuff or move, and the only thing you're going to give them at the end of the day is a nice meal. And if you were in Belarus, you'd have a word for this. It'd be called talaka. Or, the feeling of friends who are like family? That's the Japanese word nakama. And then there's words that just make me smile. They're just incredible words because they're things that I think are only about me, but they're not about me. They're words that, or they're concepts that people halfway around the world have words for. Do you know that game where you're sitting around and you're walking behind somebody and you sort of tap them on the shoulder and then you run away and you pretend it was somebody else? That's the Indonesian word mencolek. Or, that feeling where you're just sort of rubbing your hands through somebody's really beautiful hair in a loving way? In Brazil, that's called cafune. And my favorite word of all of these is my grammarian word today, pachmuchka. It's a Russian word, and it's any person, but mainly a child who asks lots and lots of questions. And I, as a child, was a pachmuchka. And I wish I knew that word, because then instead of being Rob, that annoying kid who just asks all the questions, I'd be part of a virtual community of pachmuchkas, and I'd feel so much more at home. And all of this reminds me about when I was talking with a rabbi at Hanukkah a few years ago. And Hanukkah is the Jewish festival of lights. And the rabbi, who is also a medieval scholar, was telling me that it's not just about Hanukkah at that time of year. There's Christmas, There's Roman Saturnalia. There's all these times when people are just looking for a when people are looking for the, the sun to come back. These are all around the winter solstice. And what happens is this is the time of year that the sun goes from, the brightness of the summer, and it keeps going down and down, and the days are getting shorter and shorter. And the winter solstice is the time that everybody just prayed to the gods to please, please, please bring the sun back. And I heard the rabbi say this, and I said, Rabbi, doesn't this make you feel sad? Like there's, like that this is something that's not special about us. And he said, no, 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 this is really about being special. This is that all of us around the world have this commonality, and we all can share in our hopes and fears, as one common humanity. So when I think about this, I think there's some real lessons to be learned about the world. We're in this time of divisiveness, but we should look for how we can come together. So the next time you hear something, or you see something that you don't quite understand, take a step back and think about kind of what kind of commonality you have between you and that thing you don't understand. And then take a step forward and learn from the differences between you and that thing. And then together, hopefully, we can help make the world a better place, just one word at a time.